California. Jimmy, good afternoon. How are you today, pal? What's going on? Jimmy.
I'm great. I'm great, Chris. How are you?
Fine, Jim. Thank you. What's happening now? What do you have for me?
Hey, when I think of Dick Stockton, for me, being a West Coast guy, the first thing I think of are the Lakers Celtics finals in the '80s, and what a way he had of making all those games feel like big games without making the broadcast about himself. Because there's so many guys that do that. Like a Gus Johnson or whatever.
Oh,
He
Gus
just had a
Johnson drives me
way-
crazy. Yeah, drive me crazy.
Yeah, I shouldn't even put him in the same breath. But Dick Stockton, this is I'm really bummed out to hear this because I think he's fantastic. And to say he's underrated, I think that's fair because he's not he's not the first guy you think of, but he's had a tremendous career, and I'm going to miss.
Well,
him.
he was always the number 2 guy. He's the Jim Simpson of his era. Simpson was number 2 man to Gowdy and was a great announcer. And he's a little bit like that. Because he had Brent ahead of him a lot of times. He was always that number 2 guy is in a lot of ways his whole career, which is he's the Iron Eagle is in a lot of ways. Iron, the number 2 guy for Nance. Iron, a hell of a broadcaster. I don't want Iron to take that as a knock. It's not a knock. You'd be the number 2 guy. I mean, you're behind a Hall of Famer in Nance. And Iron one day is going to be in the Hall of Fame if you look at if he isn't already. So from that stand, not yet. That's not there yet. But let's not get him a swelled head too quick. But Stockton's, when you do it for that long, that well, and have that kind of resume and that kind of versatility, and you're on the national stage, and that includes TNT with the NBA. I mean, that goes. He did the baseball too. I mean, he does. He's very versatile. Does all the sports. Go ahead.
He's awesome. He's very good. Hey, I have you and Mike got me fired up on the MLB season totals last a couple of weeks ago. Less than that.
Right.
I want to run a season total over by you and a season total under by you, which I'm kind of I'm looking for some confirmation here or otherwise.
Go ahead.
So let me run it by you. Okay. The first one, I'm looking at the Royals at Kansas City, over 73.5.
Yeah, I like that one.
That's a pretty good lineup.
Yeah, that's a good
lineup.
point. I like that one too. They're going to hit, Benintendi, Merrifield, Dozier, Santana, Mondesi at shortstop, Solar, who hit 40-something homers a couple years ago, Perez. Yeah. That's a pretty good offensive team. They don't have great pitching. They got unheralded pitching. That would worry you a little bit. But they're in a bad division. The Tigers, the Twins and the White Sox are not unbelievable. The Indians lost somebody too. So I think that's a good one. I might take that one as well. All right, what's number 2?
Well, number two is in the same division as what you just mentioned, the Indians under 82, because I could see those two teams flipping. I could see the Royals ahead of the Indians. The Indians, I looked at their lineup. I don't know who they are, Chris. I mean, I know they got a.
Yeah, the one thing about the Jimmy and good call. I'd be careful with the Indians because they have good starting pitching. And when you have good starting, and they're about 88 and a half, 81, right around there. They have very good starting pitching, and they got a big manager. So I would be careful about the Indians. That one, I would not play the under with. I mean, they got good starting pitching. They got a lot of guys who can pitch. So I would not go near. I would not do that one. I don't like that under. I would lay off the over, and I don't like taking 2 in the same division anyway. But I do think you're on the right path with Kansas City. Mike in Orange County, same borough, right across the street. Mike, good afternoon to you. How are you today, pal? What do you have? Michael.
How are you, Chris?
Yes, Mike, not bad. How you doing?
Orange
okay?
County. I think Jimmy saw a little of my thunder. Listen, 3 basketball things real quick. You got to get on Doug Kokori and talk about Elgin, Chris. You got to get Doug on. He covered Elgin all those years for the Herald Examiner and the Times in L.A. Got to be a West Coast news guy. We got to hear more about Elgin, don't you
We
think?
haven't heard Doug. We haven't had Doug on in a long time. He listens a lot, and I thought of Doug. We did Bob instead because I don't have Doug's number, but I do. He followed Elgin well. Next time Doug calls, we'll make sure we do a little Elgin talk. I promise you. Go ahead. What else?
Stockton, like Jimmy said, incredible. I think of Stockton. I think of Heinsohn. I think of Lakers. I think of Celtics. I think of the Lakers. He was incredible for CBS on those Lakers series. Unbelievable. He was the voice of CBS, NBA and CBS in the 80s, Jim. Chris, no doubt about it. He was just absolutely fantastic. What a career. Did the Red Sox, too? Just steady, like you say, as good as anybody.
Yeah,
First
steady,
by
solid, and reliable.
Yeah.
Steady, solid, and reliable.
incredible.
Good call. Yeah, very, very, very. And I think if you're gonna think about the marquee event that he covered, that would be it. The Lakers Celtics played a ton of times. They played in '84, they played in '85, and they played in '87. They played 3 times in that period there, those Magic and Bird, and Stockton was the play-by-play guy in all 3 of those series. So I would agree with you on that. Pat in Texas, Mad Dog Unleashed for him. Pat, welcome. Your turn. How are you today, Pat?
Hey, Chris, how are you? Hey,
Fine.
You probably
What's
know, you probably heard it, but one of the Yankee greats passed away today down here, Bobby Brown, and he wasn't.
I didn't know that.
He wasn't a great
Dr. Bobby Brown
star
died?
for the
I didn't know that. Yep.
Yeah, he did, and of course I know about him. Chris, you're talking about how we learn about things. My grandfather was a huge Yankee fan, and he was beloved by the Yankee fans because he was so clutch in those years, 49 through 53, when they won the World Series. But really, he made his life afterwards. He was the president for the Rangers for a couple years in their early, once they moved down from Washington.
He was a president. He was a
Then he
president of the
became-
American League. He was the president
Right.
of the Rangers. He was a great doctor. I mean, he had a hell of a life. I did not know he died. He had to be close to 90, right?
96, and the papers down here. But he was just really unbelievable. What a life, huh? 96 years old, and to have all that to talk about, right?
Pat, 100% good call. I'll get an obit on that. I'll read that. Dr. Bobby Brown was a Yankee. He was a Yankee for about 3-4 years, and he was a very important Yankee when he won. He was one of those players who was and I didn't see him, but he was one of those guys who, made the contribution. He wasn't great singularly, but on a team concept like that where, in a short sample size, you go out there and do some things for you. Get the big hit the ball behind the runner, make a big defensive play. He's that kind of player. You put him in a big game, he's going to do what he has to do, and he's going to become a star. Can't carry it, but you put him in that spot. And he had a wonderful life outside of his Yankee career. We'll get an obit there from Eddie. I didn't know that. Good job, Pat. 9 in front of the arrow. We're continuing here on Mad Dog Unleashed.